Okay, it's ready, Dr. Resh.
Sir, can I start?
Dr. Rex, you can start now.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you. So, good afternoon.
Yes, you can start now.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I am starting. My screen is visible? Hmm.
Yes, sir, it is
Yes,
visible.
visible.
Okay, okay, okay. Thank you, thank you. All right. So, good afternoon. On Sunday, we are learning on Indian diaspora, and it's session 3 to 5. We are dealing with the MDI 005. So, Indian diaspora and socio-political and policy aspects. Uh, the block 1 deals on this particular paper, FDI 005, is politics of migration and policies on diaspora with implication for foreign policy and national security. And the learning objectives of this particular block is that it will explain the Indian diaspora policy in pre-independence period, and it will describe on India's post-independence shift in diaspora policies and understand India's diaspora's economic, cultural, and political engagement. And as learners, we will also understand how the various programs and schemes are undertaken by the government time to time for the welfare and protection of its diaspora communities. So altogether, it is we are going to deal with the public policy in perspectives of the diaspora community or diaspora population. Uh, as we have discussed earlier classes, how we have emerged from how we look to the diaspora population pre-independent period and now is different. The eyes are looking the diaspora community is different, and the government policies also ever changing in order to support the diaspora population and as well as to gain the economic, social, and the political uh, upliftment of those diaspora community to gain more uh, uh, the economic collaboration from them across the globe. So we are going to deal all those things in this paper. First one is the diaspora policy. So this block is divided into Indian National Congress, how the initial policies and attempts were on the diaspora policy and Gandhian efforts in South Africa. We know the history that how Mahatma Gandhi has served his responsibility in South Africa, and how this he brought many changes, and how he has put forth his views in order to bring the freedom to the nation. So it is also his thought also is highly valuable in terms of looking how we are looking the diaspora community, and how we are framing the policy and achievements in terms of Indian National Congress, which was the independent party during the initial period before and after independence, and post-independence diaspora policy and shifting policies in 1970s and after that. So this is going to be the main agenda of this block. So first, let us look into the aspect of diaspora in the pre-independence diaspora policy. So when we are dealing with this pre-independent, the history of migration from the Indian subcontinent is very old, and immigration and human settlements are as old as history of humankind itself, right? And several waves of immigration have resulted in the formation of different types of diasporas. So in the first type, it is indentured labor. In the colonial period, there was a overflow of indentured labor. That means we were working as under the British government, and they look at the labor in a different way, and they were extract the work from the people, and we were exploited during their time. So in the colonial period, there was outflow of that type of indentured labor, and the colonial induced migration led to formation of Indian diaspora in countries like Kenya, uh, Fiji, and all those countries yesterday we discussed. And furthermore, there were professionals who might immigrated to mostly developing regions such as North America, Canada, and Europe. So in the post-World War II era, immigration of professional was witnessed in these countries. So after the Second World War, the diaspora communities, the people moving from other countries were totally different. So this is what we are going to discuss in this block, and especially in 1970s and 80s, if you see the Gulf countries, there is oil boom. Means that there is a booming in oil corporation, and the exporting the oil uh, uh, for energy and everything was high. So they need a lot of labor for it. So due to this, in 1970s and 80s, a third wave of immigration to the Gulf was also witnessed. Today, Indian diaspora is spread across the globe with varied ethnic formation. So from the pre-independent period and after that, so after the independent period and in the mid, due to the need of various aspect, the the boom in Indian migration and Indian diaspora community is evolving, as well as it is spread across the nation. So Indian diaspora has been categorized by the government into non-resident Indian, persons of Indian origin, that considers PIO, and overseas citizens of India. So there are three categories, main categories. I will once again reiterate that uh, non-resident Indian, persons of Indian origin, and overseas citizens of India. So some immigrants retain their Indian nationality but continue to live overseas for various reasons, especially for employment. So they are referred to as NRI, and persons of Indian origins is a person who or whose ancestor was an Indian national, and who is personally presently holding another country's citizenship nationality, and he is holding a foreign passport. So that is they are called as persons of Indian origins. So their ancestors are from India. Now they were born and brought up only in other countries. So they have their US citizenship. For example, if a couple from India goes there and get the citizenship and live there, and they give birth to a child there, then that couple are NRI and the child is OCI, overseas citizen of persons of Indian origin. So as per registered as overseas citizen of India under Section 70 of the Citizenship Act. So these are the very three predominant areas, the policies that brought in view. And so these three categories are. Sir, any question from Kartikeya Singh, sir? The raised hand.
Hello, sir. I'm sorry for interrupting you. Uh, I was
Yeah,
merely
yeah.
curious. Is there any difference between person of Indian origin and overseas citizen of India? I mean, could you please clarify?
Persons of persons of Indian origin is, as I have said, their parents. Okay, their parents are of that particular of India, but that means their ancestor, the person of Indian origin. If I live in US, okay, I have a US citizenship. Okay, I am a person of Indian origin because my ancestors are in India. Okay, I am a person of Indian origin, maybe probably my forefathers. Whereas overseas citizens of India means that they have a dual citizenship. Okay, so overseas citizenship of India, they have the citizenship of other countries also, and they have the citizenship of India. So there is a overseas citizenship of India, which is granted under 7A of Citizenship Act. Okay, as person registered as overseas citizens of India under Section 7A of the Citizens Act 1950 is granted overseas citizens of India. That means Indian diaspora was estimated to be approximately 31 million, with 17 million as a people of Indian origin and 13 million as non-resident Indians. Clear?
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Let's have more clarity on it. Okay. So we move to the pre-independence diaspora policy. Okay. The history of immigration from the Indian subcontinent goes back to the historic. Let's have question at the end, if at all. Okay. Please keep your questions. We will discuss.
Yes, the question.
Okay.
Good afternoon, sir.
Oh yeah.
Yes, the question is about the early question about the Kartikeya. Sometimes I know also the people who marry someone from the India. Also, the government give them OCI. So in that time, in that particular case, what's the main thing to sustain that she can obtain OCI?
I couldn't get your question. But can you text it?
Yes, I was saying.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not Indian. Like I'm from UK.
Okay.
But when I will become husband of someone from India,
okay,
the government also will give me OCI.
Okay.
Yes, I was asking in this kind of question, what's the because I am not from India, but only my wife, like my wife is from India. The government, even in this case, give me OCI. The question is how the government give me if I am not from the Indian origin.
Okay. See, we have discussed this regarding the citizenship yesterday. If you were there in the part of that clarity on citizenship, each country has their own constitutional clarity on giving citizenship. Okay. Some countries are giving by birth. Okay. For example, by blood relation. If my by birth I can get a citizenship as an Indian citizen. Okay. In some other country, if you go and by birth in a place, if I was born in Australia, automatically the citizenship is given by Australia. I don't know about their constitution, but probably. Okay. If some countries having that type of citizenship, whereas some countries, if you live for more than 15 years or 20 years in a particular country, they will give citizenship. Okay, it is changing from countries to country, and constitution and the law permits them. If you go to Gulf countries, for an example, they have the citizenship of exclusion. Where you live for a longer period of time, they will not get a citizenship because they will keep consider that migration or immigrants are somewhere apart from their country. So you cannot get the citizenship, but you can enjoy by being working there and earn there. Okay, whereas as per India, it is by birth you get a citizenship. If you marry, you get a citizenship. Okay. So let us have need not worry much on the citizenship and everything. Let understand the things related to the diaspora policy, how it is coming into picture in a pre-independence period and everything. I also request everyone to keep your questions in the chat box, and you can raise hand. I'm ready to answer, but put questions in the chat box to get more clarity on what you are exactly asking for, because I'm not able to get that exactly the questions due to the network, because it's breaking sometimes. Okay, is it okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, you can raise hand, not an issue, but if you text the question, it will be nice for me, because I can give clarity much on it.
Noted.
Okay, thank you. So pre-independence period, we know that British colonies in 1830s, the British began facing labor shortage problems in their plantation, island, and their places. To overcome this shortage, the British started a new system of indentured labor from India. This led to a development of new kind of labor. When you say indentured labor, means they take them as a slave. Okay, so asserts that although slavery was banned in 1830s, form of system was no less than slavery. In fact, he called it slavery in disuse. The system remained in place from 1840 to 1920. So it's absolutely taking the Indian labor and exploiting the Indian labor. And they were taken to European countries. And this is a place where, even though it's considered as slavery, but people of India moving to either European countries as a diaspora community, and they start migrating. Okay, so the British government was directly involved in the process of immigration and deliberately chose poor peasants, especially the agriculture workers. And Indian caste system played a role in it. For example, untouchable and Adi Dravida was there were easily convinced to move out due to their economics as well as social conditions. So they played with this Indian caste system, and they were exploited and they were taken. And at the same time, they were also willing to go, because in order to come out of this untouchability and everything. However, the direct involvement of the British in the process of immigration was only till the workers boarded the ship. Okay, so this implied that colonial government was not much concerned with the needs of the labor. Okay, so they were just taking them and board them in the ship. That's all, and they were totally exploited when they were going to the European countries. So migration of the labor, that Indian basically satiated the needs of the British of the increased demands of labor. So they were just as like other source of or resource of the production. The labor also has kept as a kind of tool or something like that. They just send them, not considered as a living being. So this labor was mostly sent to Kenya, Tobago, Suriname, and Fiji, South Africa, and Southeast Asia, and where they face severe exploitation and violation of rights. So uh, the most inhuman characteristics of this type of labor system was that laborers were forced to sign a contract without reading and understanding the terms of a contract. Very, very important aspect in the history of Indian migration. So they were, without understanding anything, they said sign and lived for decades or years, and they were totally exploited. In the terms and conditions of the contract by labor put them in a great trouble. Okay, So most often the issues of residents' rights, poor working conditions, long working hours, and discrimination based on racism and no proportional representation in the political system, substandard facilities of education, medical convenience, etc., were the main concerns of this overseas labor. So was the condition of pre-independence of diaspora policy. So, dear learners, we must understand how it was when during the British colonial period, especially in the year from 1840 to 1920. So that we know that the INC, Indian National Congress, take place due to ever increasing instance of exploitation and labor in foreign countries. The nationalist consciousness towards the plight of overseas Indians soon became major concern. So, INC, the Indian National Congress, made persistent efforts to alleviate, to stop the suffering of the overseas labor. And this INC is demanded through Mahatma Gandhi the equality of rights, fair and fair treatment of Indian laborers with the natives, and thereby standing against the discrimination of any kind. Okay, so in the initial period, it is pressured the colonial government to act against, bring some policies, bring some act in order to uphold the rights of the people. And it is INC furthermore popularized the problems and issues of the labor and spread awareness about their miserable condition throughout the country. You know that the INC has put forth the colonial exploitation, okay, the British government, and lit the light of freedom. And political leaders consider that it was through the state that conditions of intended labor could be improved. Therefore, initially the state was being looked upon as an instrument to take action and redress the issues related to expatriate Indians, including the intended labor as well as voluntary migrants. So, under the pressure from the INC, especially the Indian National Congress and the families of laborers, the colonial government did try to bring reform by devising the policies and legislatives for well-being and protection of these workers. So additionally, the commissions were formed to inquire the status of these workers and provide suggestions. So the INCs, we must appreciate the Indian National Congress for this area because they forced the British government to bring certain policies. So additionally, the commission were formed to inquire the status of these workers and provide suggestion to ease their problems. So some suggestions were made by the commission. For example, it was demanded that the immigrant workers may be allotted land first of all and allowed to work as free men after the period of Indian war was over. So they were allowed to be free first of all because they were considered as a slave. They were given more hours of work. However, this step had problems for the natives or the owners. Therefore, no substantial differences could be made to the conditions of the laborers because there is a loophole and it only supported the natives of the particular country. Okay, and we should move on towards the Gandhi's efforts in South Africa. We know Mahatma Gandhi, being an overseas Indian himself, showed keen interest in the affairs of the diaspora first. So when Gandhi was in South Africa, he struggled for the cause of the Indians residing in the Natal province. The government of the Natal province made the strict rules by disenfranchising Indians in 1894, and they have various laws to exploit the overseas Indians, especially the Asiatic Law Amendment Ordinance 1906. It's called a Black Act. So Gandhi resisted the exploitation, defied the discriminatory act, and led Satyagraha movement in South Africa. And Gandhi and his companions faced many hardships during the struggle, including imprisonment many times. So what they have done so far, the Gandhi's effort in terms of natal government accepted the demand of Gandhi as well as national support from India and to some extent pressure from the British. So, however, South African government cited the agreement stating that Indians would be repatriated to their homeland. This meant that Indians would be sent back to India without their will, which again was infringement of their rights and lawful settlement. So Gandhi was able to give pressure to the South African government and able to bring a certain kind of relaxation in the Indian labors in South Africa. So, in this regard, the colonial government said that Indian diaspora belonged to the place of their settlement, where resident of the colony. So, the colonial government did not take the problems of Indians in Africa seriously till 1914. So, because that is not their problem. They just as we have discussed in the earlier British colonial period, they only loaded the people in the ship and they forget what their condition in the other countries where they have our Indians were sent. But so they are not serious about what is happening in Africa till 1914. So the British officials in India were concerned about addressing the concerns of their white settlers, not that of the Indians. So how far the white settlers, the professionals, the doctors, okay, the main people, okay, they least bother about the blue collar workers. So it is due to the agitation of the political leaders in India that the British came under pressure to reconsider the legal provisions. So what I have to do legally for that? Okay, and they started bringing the laws, policies. Okay, they actually plan to put their feet into it, and something has to be done because there is a lot of hesitation. Especially Gandhiji was main picture in it, and being a lawyer, he understood how it has to be moved to how we have to pressurize the government. So, in addition to concerns of the diaspora in South Africa, Gandhiji was concerned for the Indian across the globe. He not only bothered about the Indians in South Africa, but across the globe, wherever the Indians were there. So this was uh, the main contribution of Mahatma Gandhi. So he, from the South Africa, he started fighting against the Black Act and brought many changes, resistance due to his boycotting and satyagraha, and able to make the British government to understand what they have to do, even though they did not think about the labors which they have sent to several countries. They start thinking and they start formulating policies to to bring justice to the laborers. So we move to the achievements of INC, Indian National Congress. In the 20th century, the united efforts of Gandhiji and other political leaders of the Indian National Congress, some positive changes were being witnessed. So Indian leaders uh, who were concerned about its overseas population all over the world had put across its concern of racial discrimination and other serious grievances in several international meetings and conferences of international organizations such as the League of Nations. So they started speaking wherever they can put forth to the government, and the leaders like Gandhi, Nehru were able to put forth in the forum where the British government are part and parcel of it. And they were able to propose what they want for their Indian labor force. And additionally, Indian National Congress sent a number of missions to countries like Fiji, Malaya, Ceylon, South Africa to pressurize the colonial government, act in favor of immigrants. So they started uh, going across the globe, especially the nearby countries, to pressurize them not to have any policies which are in uh, favor of the colonial government, which in against the immigrants. So furthermore, the separate Department of Overseas Indians, was set up under the surveillance of the General Secretary of all the Indian Congress Committee. Okay, and this department maintained the links with the overseas Indians. So, in addition, links were also established established through several overseas Indian organizations, right? So, however, even after institutionalization of the movement, by making a separate department of overseas Indians and several other efforts, no substantial result would be witnessed. So, Indian elites, through though making interest in matters of its diaspora, would not make much differences to the status and ordeal of the overseas Indians. So, generally, if you see, INC started incorporating in its freedom struggle the demand of emancipation of overseas Indians. So they started with this and they started going for the freedom struggle. So the achievement of India's independence was considered as an important prerequisite for emancipation of the condition and status of overseas Indians. So when India got independence, it's also for the thousands of people who were living at that time across globe. So in this regard, in the Indian diaspora in developed countries such as in the US, started supporting India's independence struggle. So they were able to influence the people who were abroad were supporting the Indian struggle for the freedom, and this started. Okay, so in 1950, the system of indentured labor was finally scrapped. So slavery system was finally scrapped in 1940. So few years later, India got independence. However, the post-independence period was witnessed a shift in the diaspora policies of the INC, which is discussed in detail. Okay, so here we see that in through 20th century, the INC played, Indian National Congress played a vital role, bringing the upliftment in terms of working condition, in terms of freedom, in terms of hours of work during their colonial period. Okay, so they not only uh, worked for the betterment of the people in India, but also the Indians across the globe. And we see that the countries like Fiji, Malaya, and South Africa were able to accept the pressure, were able to get the pressure from the Indian National Congress and do some policy changes for the people working in their country from India. So this was the achievements of INC, and this is the scenario of pre-independent period. So let us come to post-independent diaspora policy. So under the leadership of Nehru, the first Prime Minister of India, the focus is in post-independent India was on building a self-sufficient country and to develop a strong foreign policy guided by principles of anti-imperialism, no alignment, sovereignty, and secularism. So, in the view of economic and political development of India, there was no role envisaged for diasporas. So, this suggests a policy to shift from pre-independence period to post-independence period. So, there is no kind of slavery system or kind of uh, exploitation in post-independent period. So the Nehru's government is very clear what what they want to do, and the sovereignty and the pillar of the government. So Nehru considered diaspora as a subject of the country of their settlement and stated that immigrants who desire to live in a host country should consider themselves as its nationals. Okay, thus Nehru encouraged diasporas to integrate with the host countries and work towards its emancipation, thereby undermining their role in the development of India. So he fully concentrated on when the people in and diaspora community, they must contribute more to the host countries. Okay, that's what the Nehru's view, and undermining their role in development India. So diasporas obviously had ties with their families back home, but they were not encouraged to take part in economic and political development of India. So they were not encouraged. And nevertheless, India did show moral concern towards its diaspora and maintained that those Indians who have contributed to building foreign lands and have become a permanent resident of that land must be treated equally with the local people. So they must enjoy equal rights, citizenship, and all the privileges at par with the local population. So even the India in Nehru government is is on the opinion that they must contribute to their nation, but those people have died with their whole families and everything. But the government ensured that they should have equal freedom, uh, support, and equal rights, and enjoying the privileges in their local population of their host country. So, under the leadership of Nehru, India became a champion of anti-colonialism and fought a liberation of the world from the clutches of the colonial powers. So, it further became a source of revival of South Asia. So, there was a difficult to extensively concentrate on the issues of diaspora as it started playing a new role in international relations, which was yet to be carved. So, it is purely a new state, new freedom state, and India is not much able to concentrate in the initial period, especially in 1947 to 50s, because they want to focus on building the nation itself. And as well as international relation is a new era for the Indian government. But they played a role to settle the Indians and fight against the colonialism. And India became the anti-colonialism in terms of fighting against and in terms of bringing liberation for the people. And India cannot forget, as said by Sarwar quoted in 2017, India cannot forget her sons and daughters overseas. Although India cannot defend her children overseas today, the time is soon coming where her arms will be long enough to protect them. This is what said by Sawal in his literature. India cannot forget her sons and daughters overseas. Although India cannot defend her children overseas today, the time is soon coming when her arms will be long enough to protect them. So Nehru discussed the overseas Indians further in Indian Assembly on March 1950. Now he stated that now these Indians abroad, what are they? Are they Indian citizens? Are they going to be citizens of India or not? If they are not, then our interest in them becomes cultural, humanitarian, political. So he has a stand that if they are not coming back to India, if they are not Indian citizens, we have our own interest is on their cultural, humanitarian, political. So India is very clear what they are going to do for those people in diaspora community is that supporting them and looking into their uh, freedom and the rights in their host countries. So they don't have much on the tying up and all those things. So India stressed on overseas Indians to be well integrated in their host countries. Its focus shifted to carving its foreign policy. So the issue of diaspora was not raised till 1970s by the successive governments either. The government did not develop any machinery to deal with the diaspora question. Neither did they intend to. But because no problem has been raised, but they least bother about it. Because the other thing is, India is in the process of building its own country in terms of infrastructure, in terms of education, in terms of uh, the road system, in terms of transportation and everything. And the issue was diaspora weren't given much attention by the Indian government. However, as per the needs, the diaspora questions were addressed in the bilateral basis with the host country governments, such as trying to address the problem of uh, the Indian people, especially the Indian Tamils, stuck between the fight of Sri Lankan and the Sri Lankan government with Tamils in Sri Lanka. But so such machinery was in place, it would give a recommendation to the government related to Indian diaspora across the in some, even now we are doing almost the same. But additionally, the potential that they had a transnational actor who would bring change at several levels, such as economic, cultural, technological, political aspects, was also not realized by the Indian government till 1970s. So when during the post-Indian period till 1970s, 70s, there is no much progress in terms of looking into diaspora community across the globe. When you say 1970s and after, the certain uh, voices were raised from the diaspora community when they demanded to take part in the election of India. So this was rejected by the Indian government. In 1978, the Indian diaspora in Gulf demanded representation in the Punjab and Kerala states assemblies and overseas Indian seats in parliament but this too was not considered. And these demands were made perhaps due to the fact that diaspora was exploited in host countries. Therefore, they wanted to have security and protection, at least by the Indian government. So the problem arises where the people are hosted countries and the government, and they want to be representative in the Indian government and also when the political aspect take place, there's a problem arised. So Indian diaspora forms several organizations based on ethnicity, culture, and religions. So they also formed pan-India organizations that go beyond their ethnic, cultural, linguistic, and religious identities. So these organizations were formed with various purposes, such as to strengthen their community against the racial discrimination, which is the main problem, and develop unity among these diaspora groups and participate in the political process of the host countries to keep up religious and cultural tradition, etc. So, shift in diaspora policy. When you say shift in diaspora policy, it took place after 1970, after 1970s, when with the coming power of the Janata government in 1977. If you know the political areas, how the Janata government has come, and during the Nehru's government and all those things, then India's diaspora policy took a turn. Now the Indian government started showing interest in its diaspora. This became evident when the Indian Council of Cultural Relations was made responsible to look after the affairs of the Indian diaspora people. And in 1980s, towards the end of the Cold War in late 1970s, a sharp tilt in Indian foreign policies was also witnessed. The Indian government started viewing diaspora as a crucial transnational actors in terms of economic, political, cultural, and social relevance in India because they played a vital role. They contribute much to the nation in terms of economical growth. They support their families. They support to start a business here because there is a flow of foreign money into the country. So there is an economic and cultural and social relevance in India. So the shift in the India government approach coincided with a global process that were being initiated at the time of the foreign form of liberalization, globalization, and privatization, which is early 1990s, where we brought LGP, and also immigration of workers increased. The uh, the workers increased following the oil price boom in Gulf, as we have discussed in the starting of the class. So when there is a boom in the Gulf countries, the oil and the need of the oil in almost all the developed countries. So they need a lot of focus. So this phase emerged. There was uh, waves of outflow of Indians to developed countries also, such as US, UK, Canada, and Australia, when IT has boomed. So these immigrants were mostly professionals, as like doctors and engineers. They started moving across the globe, and their enhanced political, economic, and technological and social thought become source of the recognition of Indian diaspora as well as the Indian state. So we have we are as an India able to provide manpower in terms of unskilled workers to the professionals, as like teachers, professors, physician, engineers. So all the areas India able to go across the globe. And due to liberalization, India economy opened up, and there were increased possibilities of trade and foreign direct investment (FDI) and setting up multinational companies in India. So additionally, moreover, there is another aspect of diaspora community where they give philanthropic attitude, charity. They started giving money to develop the vulnerable community, for NGOs, to work for the national growth. So Indian government started viewing the Indian diaspora as an important agent for economic development, and its stance towards its diaspora also changed, and revised diaspora policy came to India's foreign policy. So looking into these various aspects, India brought India's foreign policy, which it has redefined its policy. And Indian National Democratic Alliance in India, that NDA, led by the BJP, undertook several steps to involve diaspora economically as well as culturally. So the importance of diaspora of India increased would be seen in the Chennai Declaration of BJP. So what they have said, we believe that the vast community of NRI and PIO also constitute as part of the great Indian family. This was said by the Chennai Declaration of BJP. So they said that we should endure continually strengthen their social, cultural, economic, and emotional ties with their mother country. So this is what they stand, and they started doing it. Keeping its promise, the government undertook a number of initiatives such as appointment of high-level committee of Indian diaspora. So they started and launch of PIO card scheme and conducting various annual meeting, awarding diaspora and promoting the tie-up with the diaspora community, seeking fund from diaspora communities and funding for local development and everything. So India's engagement with its diaspora will prove fruitful time to come. So in addition to economic aid, investment and philanthropy remittance, Indian diaspora, especially in the developed countries like US and UK, have been an important lobby group and exercising political pressure on host countries. It's very, very important. So they also do lobby in their host countries. Okay. So Indian population are able to be part of the government, especially in US, UK, Australia. For instance, Indian Americans lobbying efforts were instrumental in signing of the Indo-US civil uh, nuclear deal. They also lobbied against the Burdan Amendment and defeated it. Okay. So these were the strength of the Indian diaspora population, because sometimes the US also feels that if they go against the Indian nations, they lose a lot of the minds which are working for the national growth, and they have to think on the diaspora population in the country. And the Indian diaspora maintained that India conducted nuclear tests in fear of downing neighbor China. So during the Kargil War in 1999, diaspora lobbied in the US Congress to pressurize Pakistan to ease violence. Okay, and likewise, India has done many experiment due to with the support of the Indian diaspora community. Okay, so this was the strength of the Indian diaspora during the NDA government, especially in 1998, and this was a successful and high-level committee released its report 2022. The report dealt with several issues, and it contained achievement of Indian diaspora, their weakness and problems that they face in the host country. So they have taken some steps, and in order to address those issues, it also provide important policy recommendations such as opening up a single window to work with the NRIs. Okay, so these are the various areas when we speak on the aspect of uh, the Indian diaspora pre-independent and post-independent period. So diaspora policy we have we understood about Indian National Congress, Gandhi's efforts, achievements of INC, post-independence, diaspora policy, and the shifting policies 1970s. So there is a lot of shift from 1970s because of the change of the government, and we were as a country we are able to stable Nehru's government, and after that we are able to stable on Indian economy and everything. So started thinking on the diaspora policy, foreign policy, and everything. So when you're moving towards the impact of politics on immigration and migration, we should think on the World Trade Organization, Bhumiputra policy in Malaysia, formation of Indian diaspora in Malaysia, affirmative action for native Malaya majority, so on. So we will also deal little bit of this. First, we should understand the impact of immigration in home countries and immigration on host countries, and describe the Bhumiputra policy on the Indian community in Malaysia. As we have discussed in the earlier class, how the in Malaysia, Indian population were adversely looked into, and the policies of the Malaysian government were against the Indian population. And understand the role of WTO, World Trade Organization, with the area of towards looking into the international migration. So we also learn about racism and its relationship and explain its citizenship issues related to Gulf and via policy of the US and Canada. So, dear learners, it's World Trade Organization. The mission of the World Trade Organization no longer a global trade body governing trade relations among the member countries. It also regulates and manages by lifting trade barriers in services, including migration through its trade instruments. So, there is a general agreement on trade in services, that's called GATS. So, WTO, the world, it's a child when the world think of to become more interconnected and interdependent in terms of trade, capital, and movement of people and so on. So they start thinking on how we should be interconnected and interdependent, and there should be a regulation on it. So there should be a regulation on trade. There should be a regulation on investment of capital and movement of people. So they started a World Trade Organization. Okay, that liberalizes not only trade in goods but also trade in services through four models. Model one is cross-border supply. Model two is cross-border consumption. Model three is the establishment of commercial presence. And last one, the presence of natural persons across WTO member states. So each model is related to the movement. When it says a model 4, the presence of natural persons across the member states is related to the movement of natural persons for the purpose of providing service across member state. So the natural persons may be either suppliers of services, independent professionals, or employees of a service supplier. Okay. So GATS is neither applicable to persons seeking access to labor market of the host country, nor it covers measures regarding citizenship, residence, or employment. It's not related with providing citizenship. It has no power, but it is regulates. It's a regulatory body. Okay. So apart from limiting admission in certain categories of persons, there are other restrictions in Model 4. It will include short-term duration of stay, quotas, requirements to pass economic needs test or labor market test, and pre-employment conditions, residency and training requirements. So it is very important to note that Model 4 excludes semi-skilled and skilled migration to WTO member states. And the developing countries are lobbying for the admission of semi-skilled and unskilled workforce under Model 4 as well. So this WTO regulates everything, they have to recruit, how much the immigration should go, and what is the regulation into it, and what is the inflow of remittance, and the reduction of pressure on labor market, and technology transfer and development of human capital, and reducing the cost of brain drain given to the nature of temporary migration. So all those things. So this WTO, it's a regulatory body, works in a very professional way, how the country of its members of WTO should recruit and bring immigration policy across the globe. That is the main aim of the WTO. Let us move to the Bumiputra policy in Malaysia. So as I have said, Malaysia is a multicultural, multi-racial country located in Southeast Asian regions of the world. So Malaysia consists of three major ethnic groups, namely native Malayas, also known as Bumiputra, and the immigrant communities such as Chinese and the Indians. When you say Indian ethnic community, is a third major ethnic community constituting about 7.7% of the 28 million Malaysian population. So 7%, 8% almost are Indians, and numerically smaller than the Chinese and Malayas, who are major ethnic group. The Indian community is a third ethnic minority of multiracial and multicultural society of Malaysia. So, which is a heterogeneous group on the basis of class, language, and region. So, when you look at to the among the Indians, there are Tamils, Malayalis, and Telugu, Sikhs, Gujaratis, and other major Indian ethnic groups. Among them, Tamils form approximately 80% of the total Indian population. So, uh, Tamil among the Indian ethnicity, Tamilness is being asserted in the realm of culture, religion, and political representation in Malaysia. So, the Bhumiputra policy has brought the political representation in Malaysia as a major thing, and the formation of Indian diaspora in Malaysia. So they started, given the fact of geographical proximity, there have been a symbolic relations between India and Southeast Asia since the uh, period. So the process of Indianization happened through the spread of and influence of Indian religion, namely Hinduism, Buddhism, and other rule of Chola kings of Tamil region. I have visited Malaysia. If you go to Malaysia, you see the Chola kings. The Chola who ruled in Tamil Nadu also ruled in Malaysia. So the Malaysia bears a strong influence of Indian civilization in its cultural language. Moreover, long presence of Indian traders on the coastal regions of Malaysia had cemented the link between both countries before the advance of colonialism in Malaysia. So Indian settlement was established due to the mass influx of Indian laborers on the advent of British imperialism. So before the colonial also, so India and Malaysia relationship is high. So South Indian labor also considered the most satisfactory type of labor because of its uh, working nature and relationship of dependence between the employer and the police. Right. So affirmative action of native Malaya majority in Malaysia. Malaysia achieved its independence in 1957 after 10 years of India. So the following three ethnicity-based political parties such as Unity Malaya National Organization, representing the majority of Malayas, and Malaysian Chinese Association, representing the name itself denotes the Chinese, and the Malaysian Indian Congress, representing the Indians worked for the liberalization of Malaysia from the British. So these are the major parties. At the time of independence, the leaders of these parties, on behalf of their respective ethnic communities, had a negotiation, compromise, and bargains in terms of rights of the different ethnic communities in the independent Malaysia. So they started taking a reservation kind of things and working for their ethnicity group and everything. So apart from that, you see uh, non-Malayans were provided with the citizenship rights, the various conditions of eligibility. While framing the Malaysian constitution, the Malaya supremacy as a special provision and privilege was incorporated in the Article 153, which says that paramount duty of the ruler is to safeguard the special position of Bhumiputras as well as legitimate interests of other communities. So it is safeguarded through their constitution. So the special provision of the constitution of the majority of the Malayas has been conveniently manipulated by the UNMO, given its hegemonic political position since independence. So altogether, this gives the fullest cooperation, and it gives the kind of constitutional safeguard to the people who are minority in that particular country, and ramification of Bhumiputra policy of on immigrants and ethnic minorities in Malaysia. So they have done kind of new economic policy in which uh, the the minority were adversely affected, and Malaya language nationalism has resulted in undermining the language of ethnic minorities. Further, the Islamic religious nationalism has facilitated a resurgence of Islam among the Malayas and led to be witnessing Malaya and non-Malaya dichotomy in recent decades. Even they cannot build a temple or church well ahead of uh, uh, the uh, the place of Islamic mass. Okay, so the constitution of pro Bhumiputra policy in Malaysia has been impinging upon the rights and interest of the ethnic community, minority communities such as Chinese and Indians of Malaysia. So Malaya is, even though they are initially they safeguarding the minorities, now the minorities in Malaysia facing the difficulty, and racism and international migration. It's another issue. So I am going to abroad and work, and where they how I am being uh, outcast, or I am not given a proper freedom, or as like their own citizens. So what will happen? So racism and international migration is same both side of the coin. So we discussed about the international migration. The era of globalization appears to be on the rise due to various pulls and push factors. So many states have become are emerging as a multi-ethnic, multi-religious, and multicultural societies than ever before. So the concepts like racism are not the same, even though it overlaps due to certain similar attributes. Racism can be defined as an ideological construct that assign a certain race and ethnic groups or a position to power over others on the basis of physical and cultural attributes. On the other hand, so xenophobia means there is another term called xenophobia, which it describes attitudes, prejudices, and behavior that reject, exclude, often by persons based on the perception that they are outsiders or foreigners to the community, society, or national identity. So it's called xenophobia. If you go there, there is no, you won't find racism, but normally they feel it. You have go there to loot their resources, to exploit them. You have taken their job, something like that. They feel it. Okay, they feel, and they based on that they give. They will be prejudiced on you. They show their attitude towards you. They behave differently to you. It is in psychologically it's called xenophobia. Means people from outside they won't feel comfort and they feel the as enemy. Okay, so racism is highly prevalent in Europe. Is becoming more open, militant, and aggressive, resulting in stark political polarization. So they definitely go against the people, and and we have the citizenship issues in the Gulf. So we cannot get the citizenship in Gulf countries. So the majority of the migrant workers from Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, Kerala, and Andhra Pradesh, and even Punjab, Gujarat, Bihar, continue to migrate from India to Gulf countries. So majority of Indians are employed in the private sector. Some white collar workers are working in government office or public sector companies. Others are engaged in gold, electronic, motor spare parts of textiles, trade, and all those things. So here, Indian migrants are the impossible citizens of the Gulf states. So we cannot get the citizenship there. So the Indian migrants working in the Gulf states are temporary contract workers, employees who would return home on termination or completion of their work contract. So I know few friends there, they go and work. They put a contract for 2 years, 3 years. They give a return flight and they will fill. They give good salary in terms of for the white collar workers, and they come back and again they have to renew the contract and again they have to re-enter. So they won't keep you continuously in their country and they won't give the citizenship. So that is a pathetic situation if you want to get the citizenship in that country. So the children who were born to Indian migrants over there would not qualify for residency or citizenship. Some of you asked question in the beginning. See, the Gulf countries have a different. So children who are born to Indian migrants over there would not qualify for residency or citizenship. The following that give a clear picture about the status of Indian migrants in UAE in a particular Gulf country. Okay, so there are some case studies given in your material. You can read and you can understand how pathetic if the situation if you plan to get a citizenship there. So that is the pathetic situation if you want to get a citizenship in the countries in Gulf. So so in the UAE, the Indian migrants or foreign nationals are not allowed to acquire citizenship. Even in other Gulf states like Qatar, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, so in all the Gulf countries, is the same prevailing. So apart from the Gulf states, the developed countries such as USA and Canada are the attractive destination countries for migrants in recent decades. because you can get citizenship on all things, not as like countries of Gulf. Okay, so apart from that, the immigration and visa policy of Canada. Canada has been popular destination country for the immigrants among the industrially developed countries for half a century because of its open and immigrant-friendly policies, economic opportunities, and its official policy and multiculturalism since the 1970s. So, foreign-born people make up about one-fifth of Canada population and one of the highest ratios of industrialized Western countries. Okay, so you find one-fifth of Canada population, one-fifth out of five, one. It is a foreign-born people. Okay, as in United States, immigrants has significantly shaped the Canadian society and its culture over the years. So as like US, the Canada country developed because of the immigration. So they got independence 1867. Canada passed its original Immigration Act 1869 and revised its 1910. These acts were discriminatory in nature and is welcomed the prospective immigrants of particular race and also from particular region, especially from Europe. So, so in this country, Canada admitted about 8 lakhs temporary workers and international students, and it also provided permanent residency to migrants under four main categories such as economic immigration, family sponsorship, protected persons and refugees, humanitarian, and others. So you find even when war happened in Sri Lanka, people immigrated towards Canada and Australia because they have this kind of policies because they take protected persons and refugees, economic immigration, and family sponsorship. To explain this, Canada's economic immigration has two important types, such as federal high skilled worker program. It is an expensive and comprehensive process which has a point system by which the largest share of economic immigrants are admitted after biometric screening and language testing and so on. The second program is provincial nominee program as well as similar Quebec specific program. Economic migrants apply to individual provinces which source candidates in order to meet their economic needs. So these are the two ways where we can move towards Canada. The federal government has to approve it. In case of family immigration under this program, spouse, partners, relatives, children can join their family members already living in Canada. So these are the various areas related to US, Canada, and impact the politics and immigration and across the globe. So how India has moved it is policies we have seen, and how the other countries slightly moved in terms of citizenship issues in Gulf and everything. We have understood how it is moving. So so let us the understand how the around the world how they are having the policies related to uh, diaspora community in terms of citizenship, in terms of working nature, and especially apart from that, how India has evolved after uh, our independence, how we have moved towards the post-independence and after 1970s. So this is what the session we are dealing. Any questions you can ask. You have any questions? Okay, so please prepare yourself, and not only for the exam, it's a good paper, good course you have taken. Have a deep understanding apart from the material. Have a self reading and videos you can refer and identify the global aspects regarding the diaspora community and policies where various governments bring in terms of citizenship, in terms of policies in welcoming the diaspora community, how the host country is having the framework in terms of the welfaring the people. What is the difference? People, uh, the migration, the difference in employee migrating in different countries. What type of employment is spreading across the globe, everything. So your material is well detailed, IGNO material. You can refer. Apart from that, have a reading articles, journals will also help you in this regard to have good uh, uh, references. We will post, if possible, in the same video below in the YouTube. You can refer. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Dr. Rex, is it over now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, okay. So thank you so much. It was very informative, and we'll have next class at 5 o'clock.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.